Hello, welcome back to Learn Oikonomia. Today we are going to discuss the idea of factors affecting autonomous expenditure. We have already done a video on the idea of autonomous expenditure. If you have got any doubt in the idea of autonomous expenditure, you can refer to that particular video where we discuss the idea of autonomous expenditure in detail. I'll be sharing the link of that particular video in the description box of this video. Having said so, let's get started and see how are the different factors affect autonomous expenditure and what all are these factors. Factor number one would be the rate of interest, or simply we call it as interest rate. This is also known in the name of rate of interest. And how does rate of interest influence the autonomous expenditure or autonomous spending? Because whenever we go to take a loan or whenever we go for borrowing, the rate of interest plays a very important part there. Because when we borrow some money from somebody else, let it be from a bank, let it be from your relatives, let it be from your friends or your neighbors, you have to pay a monthly interest to the lender. And if the rate of interest is less in the economy, there can be chances for more borrowing. More borrowing can result from less rate of interest. So, low rate of interest will make more borrowing. And whenever there is more borrowing, what happens is that there would be more expenditure out of borrowing. On the other hand, if the rate of interest is more in the economy, it will create a huge cost on borrowing, so the borrowing would be coming down. And so for the very same reason, people will not be having enough money with them as a result of reduced borrowing. So this will make them to reduce their expenditure. And we have already told that autonomous expenditure is independent of the level of income, and for the very same reason we are not considering the case of incomes here. We are just considering some other factors that would influence autonomous expenditure. Moving to the second factor, this is trade policy. And we know that trade is something to deal with an open economy. And we can sell items to abroad and we can buy items produced from abroad or produced by some other nations. So export is something that we do by selling the products that we produce in our nation to some other nation. In the case of import, what we do is we will be purchasing and consuming those goods which are produced by somebody else. Now what would happen if there is something called a tariff? A tariff will definitely increase the cost here. And how can this happen? What will happen if a tariff is imposed by government in the destination country? If our export is being taxed, what happened? So this will make the price of exported goods to go up. To increase, and this will definitely make a fall in export, because their demand for export, the people who demand our products would be coming down as a result of the tax imposed by the destination nation. So this will make people to go for less demand, and that will compel us to go for less export, and vice versa. Now moving to the next concept, this is political uncertainty, and we know that we are living in a scenario of risk and uncertainty. And why this happens? Because we are living in an imperfect world, a world of imperfections. The market that we have is imperfect. It is not imperfect competition that we try to trade. It is a market of imperfections. For the very same reason, there is something called asymmetry or asymmetric information. The information processed by one party won't be same as the information processed by the other party. For example, just take the case of a person who demand the product and person who supply the product. Usually the person who supply the product would be more informed regarding the product compared to the information processed by the person who is acting as a prospective buyer here. Now, coming to the political uncertainty, we cannot predict anything regarding politics. Definitely this will affect the investment decision. And how? Because if people favorably think about politics, or if they have a favorable perception regarding politics, then definitely the investment in the economy would increase. But if the political climate is not favorable, or if the political climate is unfavorable, then what happens? Here the investment would be coming down. So there will be a delay in business. People will be having all the pessimistic thoughts if the investment climate is unfavorable. So they will delay their investment plans. The plan to go for investment will be postponed. Again comes the role of another important aspect, which is the government policy, which is the fiscal policy. The government would be mostly taking a discretionary stand, and that will be based on the prevailing economic conditions. The government will try to see the economic scenario, and it will go for an expansionary fiscal policy during the times of recession, so as to promote the economy or to revive the economy. It will go for a contractionary fiscal policy at the times of inflation, so as to suck the money from the economy. So whatever be the type of economic policy taken by the government in the form of fiscal policy, it will just try to see whether the economic condition that is happening in the economy is recession or inflation. And in the case of expansionary fiscal policy, what happens is that the government will be reducing the taxes and it will increase spending. And in the case of contractionary fiscal policy, it will increase the tax and it will reduce the spending. That is how it goes. Now, there is something called consumer expectations. A consumer can think about future prices. This is about which a consumer will form expectation. Future price expectations. Sometimes we expect a rise in the price in the future. So what happens if we expect a rise in the price in the future? Just take a particular commodity that we love. Just assume that there is a particular commodity, we like it so much, so we actually love it. In that context, if we have a perception that there can be an increase in the price of that particular commodity in the future, if we expect in that manner, then what we do, even if we do not have money with us right now, we just go for borrowing, and we borrow and buy commodity now itself. But what happens if we go for an expectation that make us to think that the price of the commodity is going to fall. If that is the case, even if we have money with us, we will not buy today. We will postpone our consumption. Isn't it? We won't be buying the commodity, rather we just try to procrastinate, and we will try to purchase the commodity at a future date. That's it. Now, coming to the exchange rate case. Exchange rate involves the rate at which currencies are traded. So it involves the rate at which one nation's currency is exchanged for the other nation's currency. And this plays a very important role when it comes to foreign trade, export and import. What happens if there is something called depreciation, which is very much automatic, which happens as a result of market forces of demand and supply? If there is depreciation, there can be a fall in the value of a nation's currency. So this makes export cheaper. This makes the domestic items or domestic goods or domestic commodities cheaper to foreign nations, cheaper to foreigners. So what happens here? When this becomes cheaper to foreigners, there would be an increase in exports, and when there is an increase in export, this will increase the income, and this will ultimately lead to increase in welfare. This is just the case with depreciation, and appreciation will be having the opposite effect. Again, you could see that these all things would be influencing the autonomous expenditure. If we are expecting a depreciation, then we will try to increase our expenditure, because we will be able to have a increased welfare. So that's it. I request you to like, share and subscribe to this channel for more videos. Thank you for watching. Also, you can join our free community by clicking onto the link given in the description box. You can also be a part of our Learn Economia group by downloading the Learn Economia app. And for that also, I'll be providing the link in the description box. That's it. Thank you for watching.